So in this last episode of the year of the Engineering Career Coach podcast, I want to do what I'm calling an annual engineering career debrief. I want to walk you through 5 questions that you can ask yourself to kind of take stock of your past year here, 2019, and use kind of this brainstorming process of asking yourself some questions to help plan and guide you for 2020. And so literally, I want this to be very actionable. I want you to take out a piece of paper right now, if you can, and kind of write down some of this, or if you're on your computer, you want to type away, that's fine. If you're, commuting and you're listening to this, then you may just catalog some of this for later. But let's walk through 5 questions that you can ask yourself to prepare for 2020. The first question is, what were my biggest career accomplishments of this past year? Now, I hope that if you're a listener of this podcast, you set goals for yourself on a regular basis. It's something that I talk about all the time, right? If you don't have a goal or goals that you're moving towards, then what are you doing, really? So if you did have goals, that's great. You can just look at your goals and say, which ones did I accomplish? Makes this step a lot easier. If you didn't have goals, you're just going to have to think through, what were the big accomplishments? Did you get a promotion? Did you get a new license or certification? Did you get an increase in your salary that you weren't expecting? Did you open up your own engineering company? What were your major accomplishments of this year? Listing them down will help you to, again, catalog the year, think about what worked for you. Second question. I don't like the word failures. I don't believe in failures. I believe that, we have learning experiences that we take and leverage in the future. But the second question is to ask yourself, what were your biggest letdowns this year professionally for you? What were maybe challenges that you wanted to overcome and you didn't? Anytime that we falter in our careers or in our lives, we have the ability to look at that, think about why it didn't work out, and make adjustments for the future. I like to use the football game analogy for this one. And if you're not a football fan, I apologize, but I think you can follow this here. If you're watching a football game, a lot of times, obviously one team, well, not necessarily, it could be a tie, but one team typically is winning in the first half. The team that is losing at halftime, right, they came out with a plan. They either didn't execute it well or they did execute it and it wasn't working. And so they typically go into the locker room at halftime and they make adjustments. They look at video, they look at photos, they talk to their players. What's working? Why isn't this working? They make adjustments and then they come out in the second half, and a lot of times they can win the game because they made those adjustments. So if you know what wasn't working for you, what were your letdowns, what were your challenges that you were faced with, by thinking through them and really thinking through why it happened, why they didn't work out, you can game plan for 2020 around that and make those adjustments that you need to make so that a year from now, when you're going through this debrief again, it looks a lot different. Number 3, what was one accomplishment that I really wanted to achieve that I didn't? Now, maybe you won't have an answer to this question because maybe you accomplished everything you wanted to, which is great. But again, it's those things that we don't accomplish that can teach us the most about ourselves, about our strengths, some of our challenges or weaknesses, our skill sets, our determination, our network of people around us. And so thinking about that one goal that you had that you really, really wanted to get and you didn't. Maybe for some of you, it was the PE license. You tried and you just couldn't pass that exam. And again, you can think through why that happened. And what are some adjustments you can make? This is kind of a follow-up to the last question, but when you think about the one goal that you really wanted that you didn't get, that can really help you to think about adjustments and changes you can make going forward. The fourth question is, what are my top 3 goals for the next year? I'd love for you to go through a formal goal setting process. We have several podcast episodes around them. You can listen, you can go through all the steps, come up with, I recommend 5 professional goals, 5 personal goals. But right now, in this debrief, I just want you to think about what are 3 goals that you have to have this year. A year from now, when you're debriefing this again, you're going to say, I needed to nail those 3 things, whatever they were. You need those big drivers in your career, those big things that you're focused on. And by the way, to figure this question out, you can go back to the last question. Right? What was that one goal that you didn't accomplish? You can slot that in as to one of your top for next year, if it's still applicable, of course. Now we're up to question number 5, and I have to give full credit to this question to Anya O'Dwyer. Anya is a civil engineer, and she is the CEO of Innovate Engineering. She's a young, dynamic engineer. I recently interviewed for an upcoming episode of our civil engineering podcast, one of our Women in Civil Engineering episodes, which will publish in early 2020, and talked to her about her journey. And she talked about how she had some mentors and how she really had to think through her career at certain stages, being that she started her own company, which she's now growing. And she said that one of the things somebody asked her at some point in her career, and this is going to be question number 5 for you, is what's going to differentiate you, whether it be in your career, in your company, in your industry? What is going to differentiate you? We just went through some more routine questions around goal setting and some of my letdowns, right? And goals that I missed and big time driving goals for next year. And that's all good. But remember, we're focused on the 80-20 rule at EMI, right? We're big believers in the Pareto principle, which says that 80% of your success comes from 20% of your actions. In fact, we have a whole video series on YouTube dedicated to this, the Engineering Manager 80-20 Shorts, which you can find at youtube.com/engineering careers. And oh, by the way, if you're watching this episode on video, you get to see my ugly Christmas sweater as well. Just saying. But I want you to kind of 80-20 this whole debrief process and say, what's really going to differentiate me in my career? Is it going to be getting a credential? Is it going to be because I have a skill that a lot of other people don't? Is it going to be my network and my connections? If you can identify that one big driver that's really going to differentiate you from everybody else and you put all your energy and effort into it, that's going to definitely accelerate your success as an engineering professional and just as a professional overall in terms of career success. So it's a busy time, the holidays. I'm keeping this as a short episode, just a refresher for you. But again, this is a debrief for you to really take stock of where you've been and set yourself up for a very successful 2020. Let me walk through those questions one more time quickly. Question number 1, what were my accomplishments from this year professionally? Did you have goals that you set and you accomplished them, or just other accomplishments that you can think of? Number 2, what were your biggest letdowns or challenges that you faced this year that you couldn't quite overcome? It's an important question because when you can't overcome something, it makes you want to overcome it even more and figure out ways to do that. Third one, what is one specific goal that I really wanted to accomplish this year that I didn't? Which leads me into the next question, where you go through really what are my goals for next year. Question 4 is setting your goals for next year, but question 3 may impact that. Is that big one you missed still relevant? And then question number 5, the big one for me, the driver. What will really differentiate me from everybody else in my career or in my company or in my discipline of engineering or in my geographic region? What will make you stand out? In fact, for EMI, a lot of the times we get hired by companies to do coaching and training because they found us through our content. We do a lot of podcasts and YouTube videos and articles. And so for us, that's been a way to differentiate ourselves. Also for EMI or for myself, I feel like we differentiate ourselves because I'm a licensed engineer providing training to engineers. And a lot of companies like that are engineering companies, right? So how are you going to differentiate yourself? I really want you to think through this question because if you nail this question, it could change your career. It really can. If you figure out what differentiates you, it completely changes your career. So think through those 5 questions because I promise you they could really, just taking 10 minutes to do this can create a much more successful 2020 for you. I appreciate you watching our videos, liking our videos, and leaving comments. Please continue to do it. We've got a lot of great videos coming in 2020. And until next time, I wish you the best in all of your engineering career endeavors. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave your comments and or questions in the comments section below this video. Also, if you'd like to view the full show notes for this episode, visit engineeringmanagementinstitute.org or see the link in the video description. There you will find the key points discussed in today's episode, as well as links to any of the resources, websites, or books mentioned during the episode. Until next time, I wish you the best in all of your engineering career endeavors.